It can happen without warning. 1 minute, fine. And then
they're on the road and they've just taken their medication and they don't understand that after about 20 minutes, once that medication kicks in, that they may feel a little less attentive and they're behind a steering wheel and they're driving 60 miles an hour. Their braking time could be altered, or their judgment about how far a car is away from them could be altered. So it could result in a situation that they may cause an accident.
the impairment comes from prescription medications legitimately prescribed by doctors.
So there are people that are potentially not addicts, and, not abusing it, that just make a mistake and get behind the wheel and think they're fine, and then all of a sudden they're not. And that's the problem, is when you're driving and you're under the influence, you think you're okay, but you're not.
People know how alcohol can impact driving ability, but that isn't always the case when pills are involved.
Morning, sir. I'm Sergeant Rubin with the Newark Police.
How you doing, sir?
Okay, where are you coming from?
Especially with prescription drugs, people take the drugs and think, okay, because a doctor prescribed it, I must be okay. They don't necessarily read the warnings on the labels that tell you do not operate heavy machinery, and a car is obviously a heavy machine. And they just don't recognize that they are impaired by this prescription medication that they're taking, and they drive without even knowing that they might be impaired.
But impairment is impairment, no matter what the cause.
In terms of the law, at least here in Delaware, whether you're driving under the influence of alcohol or driving under the influence of drugs, it's actually the same charge.
The charge is DUI, driving under the influence.
Based on what I've seen so far, I don't think you're necessarily capable of driving your car right now, so I want to take you back to our station and do a couple more tests with you there. So at this time, I'm going to ask you to turn around and put your hands behind your back.
People are surprised when they realize they are getting arrested for driving under the influence, DUI, of a prescription drug. And they'll say, well, this is what my doctor told me to take. I took the amount he told me to take. And, if it shows us impairment under the law, when we can show that you were under the influence based on our testing, then, you're guilty of driving under the influence, whether you had a prescription or not.
Finding out what caused a driver's impairment isn't always easy.
They would be stopped for a suspected DUI charge by a regular officer on patrol, who would then conduct all the field tests and give them a preliminary breath test, and it would come back with zeros, showing no impairment, when the testing that they had done clearly indicated that there was some kind of impairment going on, and it wasn't consistent with a 000 reading on the breath tester. So we would do blood testing to determine if there was something else on board. So the majority of times it would come back with some kind of prescription drug in their system.
Data shows people need to know about the dangers of driving under the influence of prescription drugs, but how do you get the word out?
We weren't really sure what we wanted to do, but we knew we needed to do some kind of public information campaign to let the public know that just because a drug is legal and you're prescribed to take it does not necessarily mean that it is safe for you to drive while you're taking it.
So the first state to ratify the U.S. Constitution became the first state to have a DUI awareness campaign involving prescription drugs. Billboards along Delaware highways are the most visible part of the project, showing prescription medication could cause DUI.
We're really proud of the fact that we're trying to be very proactive instead of reactive. For the most part, though, in terms of being passive versus aggressive ways, the model that we're using really is the model that we use for all of our campaigns. It's simply education. It's providing the information to the public and hoping they make a behavior change as a result.
Many pharmacies are also helping to change patient behavior with the help of posters in patient waiting and pickup areas.
So we're not trying to scare the people and tell them to stay home and don't get behind the wheel. What we're trying to do is tell them that when they use this medication, there's a greater likelihood that this medication may impair them and that could result in an injury to them or to others.
The pharmacies are also distributing flyers on prescriptions that could cause impairment.
When we first started handing them out, most people were in disbelief that this was even a concern. It wasn't even on their radar.
The flyers are stapled to the outside of the bag, not put inside.
We often put a lot of literature in the bag. So there's literature about drug information, disease state information. Oftentimes there's things specifically about the medication fact sheets that we have to put. So many times if it's in the bag, patients will take their medication out and throw the rest of the contents of the bag away. So that's why this specific project, we've stapled the outside of the bag, because they actually have to remove it before they open the bag in order to get their medication.
Patients at the state's VA hospitals learn about potential impairment in a different way, on large video monitors all around the buildings.
It's a simple message, but it's a very powerful and it's a very effective one. And we've gotten very good feedback from that. So it runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It comes up as part of a normal cycle. And I think it runs at least 4 or 5 times an hour. So if you don't see it on the first floor, you'll see it on the ground floor, you'll see it on the 3rd floor, wherever else you happen to run across one of the monitors.
It's too early to tell how effective the statewide program is, but initial feedback has been positive.
We have a lot of support, and hopefully we can get more partners on board. So it's going to, hopefully we can maintain and sustain the program so that we can do some long-term analysis. And it would be analysis in terms of crash data as well as arrest data to determine if we've made a dent in the problem.
The Delaware Office of Highway Safety didn't wait for someone else to act first. They're leading the way.
Well, we hope that this is one more area where Delaware sets the tone, where Delaware is a model state for others to follow. And we hope all the states follow. This is not one where we want to be different than or out front of other states. We want other states to catch up with us real quickly because we want people to be safe in all 50 states.